Have you ever wondered why you're drawn to people in certain relationships? And more specifically, if you've ever been in a space of almost obsessive infatuation towards somebody where you think about them nonstop and even live in this fantasy world of your future or potential future with that person, why this is happening, and what that may say about you. Well, in today's video, we're going to unpack exactly that. We're going to do a deep dive into limerence and how some of the things you obsess about in your modern dating or present dating experience may have a lot to do with deeply unmet needs from your past. So what is limerence, you ask, and what does this have to do with love at first sight? Well, the concept of limerence was originally discovered by Dorothy Tennov in 1979, and she described limerence as being a state of mind where somebody is obsessively infatuated with another person and constantly thinks about them to the point where it impacts their daily life. But what is the difference between simple infatuation and limerence? And how does this all link back to love at first sight? Well, limerence has six major distinct differences from a simple crush or infatuation. The first one is the frequency of obsession. Somebody in limerence will actually obsess about their object of limerence or the person they have these obsessive feelings for in intense episodes of frequency. In fact, you may wake up obsessing about your object of limerence and thinking about them constantly. Think about them all throughout the day, and then think about them before you go to sleep at night, and even dream about them. The second major factor is the intensity of the obsession. It won't just be something you're ruminating about, but something that is very intense in terms of how it emotionally fosters this output in your life. You may find that you have really overwhelming and intense feelings for this person, or so it seems. You may also find that you feel a sense of resistance in even stopping thinking about this person, or even questioning and thinking about any negative points of this person. In other words, your overall perception of this person tends to be extremely one sided, extreme rose colored glasses. Number three, the degree of self abandonment that takes place. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, what I mean is that when we are in a state of limerence, you will tend to think so much about the other person that you're actually a little bit out of touch with your own daily feelings, needs, and boundaries. You may not even realize, number four, the impact that being in a state of limerence has on your daily life. Some very obvious examples of this include things like not being able to focus at work, or perhaps if you had really important career goals, you find yourself brushing them off or pushing them to the sidelines in favor of ruminating and focusing about this person. You may find that you spend extra money in the financial area of life to impress them. You may find that you abandon time that you would have otherwise spent with friends or family members to either fixate on this person or to spend time with them if there does tend to be reciprocity. And number five, you may find that limerence actually deeply impacts your emotional state. You may have these intense highs when you are in the state of limerence, followed by these intense lows if you feel any sense of rejection from this person or a lack of the needle moving towards reciprocity, which really brings me to number six, which is when we are in a state of limerence, there doesn't always have to be reciprocity for us to have these intense feelings. So, what is limerence actually telling us, and does it really disprove love at first sight? Well, I can't sit here and tell you whether or not there's some sort of spiritual or higher power element to love and romance. But what I can ask you is, do we deeply know somebody enough to truly love them immediately? I think it's a really important question to ask yourself. And are there pointed differences between love and romance? And how do these apply to the six stages of relationships? So, I want to explain a really important concept here to really tie in the similarities that may exist between limerence and love at first sight. See, relationships have six stages. The first stage is the dating stage, vetting somebody, getting to know them. The next stage is once there's some form of commitment to focus on a degree of partnership with each other, we end up in the honeymoon stage. And That honeymoon stage tends to last for about a year up to 2 years before we enter into the power struggle stage. Now, the power struggle stage is statistically where most relationships end. And the rite of passage to moving out of the power struggle stage and allowing the relationship to progress and not fall apart is that we have to deeply let somebody in. This is usually, as I mentioned, around the year to 2 year mark that this begins. And letting somebody in means deeply letting them see our fears, our flaws, our triggers, deeply communicating more about our needs, and doing this in a reciprocal way where the person on the other end of this relationship dynamic also shares these things. And it is through this much deeper stage of bonding that the power struggle presents us with the opportunity for that we then move the needle from more conditionally based love or infatuation more into unconditionally based forms of love that have deeper roots and increase the likelihood that there will be longevity in the relationship. And it is at that point that we move out of the power struggle stage and into the stability, commitment, and bliss stages. This is originally based off a lot of the work of Dr. Susan Johnson. If you're interested in helping make a huge impact on other people's lives while also building financial freedom, I'm offering an early bird 50% discount on our integrated attachment theory relationship certification program that will help you become a certified integrated attachment theory relationship coach and build your own thriving practice by the end of 12 weeks. This 12-week on-demand program will help you kickstart your new career by teaching you revolutionary tools and strategies that help clients transform their lives and relationships. Build your own coaching practice and set yourself up for a waitlist of clients and financial success. Even if you have no coaching experience, this program will give you very in-depth tools, resources, and confidence to get started in a matter of weeks. And you can learn more information by clicking the link down below. So now that you understand this concept of these different stages of a relationship, and also recognize that in those early stages, we have more conditionally based love. And it's not really until at least the power struggle stage that we can build much deeper roots into more unconditionally based love. How does this tie back to limerence and what it's really telling us? Now, as somebody who worked with clients for the better part of a decade and saw roughly 30 to 40 clients a week for somewhere between 8.5 and 10 years. I can tell you before even starting the personal development school and working in our different programs that we run, that I had over 18,000 different client sessions. And I did not see an exception to this exact same pattern. When somebody would fall into limerence, it always represented two underlying very important things. Number one, limerence would have represented some sort of deeply unmet need or set of needs that a person was starving for. Now, let me give you more context for this. A perfect example of this is I had a client at one point who was actually engaged. She was about to get married, and she came to work with me because she wanted to dig into some of these sort of doubts or concerns she had before really going full steam ahead into planning her wedding and officially being married. Now, in one of the first couple of sessions we had together, she came into my office as I was still really getting to know her one week. And she said, "Oh my goodness, I have to call off my wedding." And I was really shocked to hear this and also sort of surprised because she seemed very dedicated to making sure that she was invested in this. Now, when we dug into the why, she said, "Well, I met somebody at a coffee shop. I spilled my coffee all over the floor. And this person turned around and helped me, and I fell in love at first sight." Now, when we explored it further, this was something that was so interesting to me. She said she fell in love at first sight, but I asked her, what needs did this person represent when you met them? And she proceeded, as we dug into it, to say this person made me feel very seen and very much like I mattered to them. And when I asked her why, she said this person, when she spilled the coffee, stopped the phone call that they were on, dropped everything, helped wipe up the coffee off of the floor, pick up her keys, and was very present with her and started chatting and kind of connecting with her and asking all these sorts of questions. And she said that was the first time in so long she felt somebody's true, undivided attention to her. And when we looked back at her childhood, we found that one of the biggest themes is that she never felt to her very busy parents that she truly mattered and that she had their undivided attention. When we even looked at her current fiance, we found that she wasn't getting those needs met quite enough. And so somebody came along that represented these needs, and she found this deep, deep infatuation that came almost immediately. Now, the question becomes when we look at those 6 stages of a relationship, and we know that it takes that work to deeply gain insight into somebody, to know their fears, their flaws, their wounds, their needs, their concerns. And we don't arrive there immediately. The question becomes, does she really fall in love with him at first sight? Or was she feeling extremely drawn to somebody who represented these deep unmet needs she spent her entire life hungering for? Now, there's a second part to this. It's not just needs, it is also traits. Now, there's something known as trait variety, and trait variety is this idea that biologically we are wired to be attracted to individuals who express traits that we are repressing or disconnected from. If you look at this from a survival standpoint, if you have somebody really smart or intelligent pair up with somebody really strong, when they attach to one another, they have a greater chance at surviving. So we are wired to also be very attracted to somebody who expresses traits that we perceive we don't have access to. I'll give you some very common examples of this. One example could be if somebody is very assertive, and maybe you struggle to set boundaries and be assertive in your own life. You may be attracted to that initially because that person is expressing a trait that you feel out of touch with. Another example of this could be if somebody seems extremely confident, and maybe you're in a stage of life where you're feeling more insecure. You may feel very drawn to that person because through your attachment to that trait, our subconscious mind ends up feeling a sense of wholeness. So when we look at these two aspects, I can tell you through countless conversations in more than 18,000 client sessions, I have seen these patterns remain consistent. When somebody falls into a space of limerence, they are actually coming from a space first of having deep unmet needs and repressed traits. That when their object of limerence comes around, they feel extraordinarily drawn to that person. But we can make the argument they are not drawn to the totality of the person. In fact, what they are truly drawn to are those missing aspects of self that do not feel whole, that the subconscious mind is really seeking to attach to and thus integrate with. So, how can you use these powerful insights to change the course of your love life? Well, by understanding that your object of limerence represents deeply unmet needs and also represents traits that you feel disconnected from, we can begin to do that work. Now, what this looks like is sitting down and asking yourself, when I've had these intense infatuations or obsessive thought patterns or rumination around somebody that I'm in limerence with, what am I actually trying to get from them? Do I imagine that we connect and this person's very present with me and they make me feel seen and heard? Do I imagine that this person makes me feel really important or like I matter? What are those things that I'm seeking to draw out on some level of this attachment? And when you take a look at that, you'll start to see that this person represents deeply unmet needs that you have probably been hungering to experience since early childhood, or at least throughout your adult romantic relationship life. And a step deeper, you may find that this person is expressing traits that are actually really important for you to begin integrating, like having a healthy sense of assertiveness or developing healthier boundaries, or reprogramming different painful beliefs you have about yourself so you can increase your sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. And as you do this work, you position yourself to be in a more secure and whole space from which you are going to become emotionally available to the right people in your life for future relationships and also show up as the best version of yourself for your romance and love life to come. Now, there's one last important thing I want to share with you, which is I've also done this work when I was in client practice before running the personal development school programs, where what I would actually see is that sometimes limerence would be a root cause for why people may stray in a relationship or cheat. And what I would end up doing with individuals who are experiencing limerence outside of their marriage or relationship is help them discover what needs and traits their object of limerence represented and learn to communicate those needs in their actual relationship with their partner or spouse. And in doing that, I would see two powerful things: their desire to stray from the relationship greatly diminished, and their overall relationship quality improved dramatically. And of course, as a tertiary aspect of that, you would also see that as soon as they integrated those traits within themselves and needs within their relationship dynamic, they stopped being in limerence with that external person. So I think this tells us very powerful aspects about ourselves and our programming and what we're yearning for. It may even go so far as to disprove this idea of love at first sight. Although who's to say there isn't some sort of romantic or spiritual element about that that we just aren't aware of as of yet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to dive deeper into limerence, I have a course you can check out fully for free for a limited time. I'll put the link down below, and it's all about overcoming limerence by integrating those aspects of self. And it has a whole list of traits and needs that you can refer to that some of these signposts may be indicating you need to meet in your own life. I hope you enjoyed this. Consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you enjoyed this video. And I can't wait to see you in future videos. Thank you for watching.